5 goals for the Vols to focus on for Austin Peay. They're going to win the game, but you can get better in these games. It's the closest thing you have. Like the NFL has a bye week, and you mentioned right up towards the top, address the linebacker situation now with Peay, and that makes natural sense. How do you think they'll address that? Who plays the mic? Who does Beasley slide back outside? How do you think they address it?
Well, I think the two starters will be Beasley and Herring, and then we'll see a lot of Arion Carter. And I think this game is a chance to see which players the coaches believe they can really rotate in and count on when the games matter. It's easy to rotate players against Virginia and to rotate players against Austin Peay because nothing can go wrong in terms of the outcome. Mistakes actually will be made, but then you can learn, okay, who's ready, who's not. But this game will be about getting Elijah Herring more opportunity out there. I'll be curious to see how much Aaron Beasley plays because he is so important to the defense. Now you're already down a man. You don't want to risk injury. And I view this kind of as a scrimmage / preseason game, if you want to make an NFL comparison. Mike Tomlin recently was asked about playing guys in preseason games versus resting them. And his opinion was, well, if you're going to go box, you need to spar. So there's a chance to get Aaron Beasley some reps, but he's played a lot. So you can play him and then get him off the field and get more time for players like Elijah Herring and Arion Carter, who are the next two guys up. And Caleb Perry should be considered in this conversation. Jeremiah Thielander is another freshman they like. We always ask, how much do you trust freshmen? We might find out here in the next 2 weeks. But I think we see a lot of Herring and Arion Carter early to go along with the other guys.
Hey, before we get to your next one, can we clarify something real quick? Because this came up on the message board. Was Peay injured in practice? Didn't notice anything Saturday, Charles says.
No, he was injured in the game, but they didn't realize it until later on. So he played through the injury, not necessarily catching that anything was wrong. And that happens sometimes, but that was my understanding with Keenan Peay. The injury occurred during the game. They discovered it later.
Yeah, and what I wanted to get to, Polynesians are tough SOBs. So he may have injured it on the first play. I mean, really. And I'm just as a group of people, they take so much pride in football. Yeah, it was my understanding that happened during the game. So I just want to clarify that for our message board. Caleb?
Josh, moving on to different rotations. You talked about setting the offensive line as a goal in the game on Saturday. You mentioned left guard and right tackle as areas they're looking at. I agree with you about left guard. I want to know if left tackle may be a bigger question than right tackle, only because as good as John Campbell Jr. is in terms of raw talent, he still makes a lot of mental lapses in the game, whereas Jeremiah Crawford, I don't know if I've ever seen a mistake from Jeremiah Crawford since he's been at Tennessee, honestly. So is it possible left tackle could be a little more open than right tackle?
Well, that hasn't been suggested to me, so the coaches may be looking at that, and because their goal is to get the best five. We hear that all the time, right? But we know who the starting center is when he's available. That's Cooper Mays. We know who the right guard is. That's Javonte Sprague. And so you really have three other positions to figure out, and you have I guess you have three tackles for two spots that the coaches have trusted at different times. Crawford, Mincy, I should say four. Crawford, Mincy, Campbell, and then Dane Davis, who's also been an interior option with Cooper's absence. So that's probably more the focus right now or for this week. So that has not been suggested to me, but perhaps that's something they look at as guys play in different positions. And Mincy has worked, we know, at left tackle. Back in August, the word was more at left tackle than right tackle, where Jeremiah Crawford was or has been.
Before we move on to a guy that everybody will always want to talk about, and of course that is Nico. Everybody has to bet a mortgage payment whether or not Cooper Mays will play against Florida. Caleb, you go first.
No, he won't play.
Josh.
Whose mortgage payment am I betting?
Your mortgage payment.
I've been very skeptical. I know Josh Heupel is talking optimistically there. So I'll still say no. I need more proof from behind the scenes that he's going to be ready to go against Florida as opposed to optimistically looking ahead to what he will be able to do.
I will say no. I'm about 60-40 though, so I don't feel 100%. So I would not make the bet. You got make time for Nico. What are you doing? Trying to just stir up the fans and start a quarterback controversy? I mean, good gravy. Vol Twitter was going insane for Nico in the first quarter of the Virginia game. You're starting trouble. You're like the Paul Feinbaum of Knoxville radio.
Similar build, I must admit, but
here's
the deal.
Callers?
Yeah, Austin Peay probably not going to be a very good matchup. Looking at Tennessee, I think the Vols will probably take a lead early, and I think they'll build that pretty quickly. And then I think it'll be time to get Joe and several starters out of there to get ready for Florida. And it's officially been addressed by Josh Heupel, I guess, last night on Vol Call, saying, no, there's no plan to redshirt Nico. That's been a common question to us on my radio show, and I'm sure you guys have been asked. We may have talked about it. At no point were they thinking we need to redshirt Nico. They've been thinking we need to get Nico ready. He's the number 2 guy. If he needs a redshirt for a 5th season, something has gone very wrong with Nico's potential and development. Could be because of injury, could be performance, could be a number of reasons. But nobody, Josh Heupel, Joey Halsley, I don't know if Joey Halsley plans to be here in 5 years to coach Nico. So they want to, they want to coach him now and get him ready. And the plan is for Joe to continue to have success, but that might not pan out over the course of the rest of the season. Or, of course, there's the concern for injury. They have 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So Nico's played a little bit against Virginia, and that's it. He needs to play a lot. Last year, Joe Milton entered the game in the second quarter against UT Martin, and there's a chance Nico could do the same this weekend.
Here's the rub, guys, is that, okay, Cooper's not going to play this week. So you put, of course, Ollie Lane in. So let's say you're up 35-0 at halftime. You want to put some Nico in to see what he can do, but suddenly he's playing against what would have been your 3rd string center just about a month ago. I mean, that's the rub. And the last thing you would want, again, it's Austin Peay. Let me stop myself. The last thing you would want is some pressure in the middle and get him hurt.
Yeah, this isn't the 3rd string center against Florida's 400-pound defensive tackle. That's not what we're discussing here.
I felt stupid in the middle of that statement.
Yeah, they should be able to get away with 4 offensive linemen and be able to protect against Austin Peay, with all due respect.
With all due respect, whenever you say that, you're just disrespecting somebody. With all due respect, you couldn't create a pass rush if Tennessee had 2 offensive.
With all due respect does not necessarily mean with a lot of due respect. It's just 100% of what is due in this case.
With all due respect, you put on some weight. Caleb, what's
we do have to love that we're not covering a team coached by Nick Saban, because he would be so mad at us in this press conference today. He would say that we're responsible for his team not getting focused to play Austin Peay, and they're such a threat. And
the tin horn game.
Yes, right. They run through our A like S through a tin horn.
I think Travis says no one can throw like Gaston, no one can run like Gaston. Yeah, I think you'll see more Gaston than you will Nico, but we shall see. And so your final topic up there was about the youngins. Can you tell us about that? Why that's a goal?
Empty the bench, play them all, and get an idea. Like the linebacker position, I'm sure they already plan to play these young guys. It's just that one's going to be playing more quickly than expected, and then on to the next one. But David Hobbs is a guy that they like a lot as a freshman defensive lineman. And Young doesn't have to be freshman. That's just a lot of what we're going to talk about. But some second-year guys, like at wide receiver, we should see Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod get some opportunities, along with Laycock, who is a freshman wide receiver that they like a lot in terms of his potential. So really every position group, the secondary, we've heard so much about Ricky Gibson, Jordan Matthews, John Slaughter, play those guys. So by the third quarter, we should be seeing a lot of the 2022 and 2023 class members out there playing. The offensive line, by the way, when we talk about that and trying to figure out who are your guys setting your offensive line, who are the guys next year? So they're hoping to not have too many injuries to where they really run into a depth issue this year, but they have a bunch of seniors they have to replace for next year's offensive line. And I know there will be the transfer portal, but some of these young linemen that they brought in last year and this year should get a lot of run against Austin Peay as well.